Forestry is an update Jagex pitched back at the Winter Summit at the end of 2022, and it's one that's been hotly anticipated since. It was pitched as a woodcutting expansion, a new set of activities that would take place while training, giving special rewards and buffs to the skill, as well as extra experience. But things have changed. In the news post for this week's beta test, Jagex made it clear that the forestry was pretty much replacing woodcutting. These events can happen on every tree, all over the world, and if you don't do them, of course you'd be missing out on valuable XP. The rewards can be used to get very significant buffs in the wider game, including combat buffs. Oh, and bonfires are coming in as well, for completely AFK firemaking training. The response has been largely negative, as players on social media, Twitter, and Reddit quickly realized this would change a lot about the game with just one update. But here's the thing, forestry as a concept was approved for development in a poll in late 2022, and the rewards have also been approved with a second poll in March of 23. The only thing left to poll, from the mod's perspective, is the specific passive buffs from campfires and teas. But how much did this update match what was polled? Well, the key questions may be the difference between what was in the blog and what was in the poll questions. While the questions mentioned a woodcutting expansion that was social, including new rewards that boosted playing with your friends, the blogs have been pretty clear forestry is taking over the skill of woodcutting. Events were always planned to happen everywhere, XP was always going to be better than everything except two techniques, and the passive buffs from teas and campfires were even more extreme in the earlier versions than they are now. And while some of us voted no to various parts of the update, ultimately everything passed the poll already. So now Jagex has a choice to make. Do they put out the update that they polled, designed to match the blogs that have been telling the audience what to expect the entire time? Or do they take a step back, because the players might not want it at this point, and say, okay, what was it about the initial poll that people did like, and how do we stay true to that going forward? The new polling system doesn't have all the answers. With the general approach of poll first, design later that they've been working with recently, there's always going to be the chance that they end up designing something that doesn't match what was polled, either in feel or in fact. Or there's the chance that players simply don't like what they thought they would like once they finally see all the details. The first option is to tone down the buffs, nerf the rewards, and generally make the update okay to the point that the players wouldn't mind it coming in the game. This is a pretty standard Jagex approach, and it's the one I expect them to take. It keeps the timeline intact, it doesn't waste work that's already been done, and it's very customizable to the specific needs and wants of the community members. The second option would be to take a full step back and re-poll a bunch. If it's clear the player base doesn't like the design, maybe it's better to come up with a new design. This would obviously delay forestry as a whole, and potentially waste work that's already been done. And it's not a guarantee that the community would like a new design any better than the current one. In fact, two different designs that they might not enjoy that much might make voters feel like the whole update is doomed. The third option would be to scrap the update. Now, this would probably only happen if a majority of the community says we don't want this and votes as such in a poll, requiring 70% to pass. This feels extremely unlikely, even though it's what a fair amount of people have been calling for on social medias. From one perspective, it might make sense. It's not in the game yet, so just don't add it if we don't want it. But from a business perspective, throwing away months of work off of a gut reaction to gameplay we haven't even played yet doesn't make a lot of sense. The final option would be to just release it. Forestry has already passed the poll after all, the rewards and gameplay system have been approved, and the details of the passive buffs can be boosted or nerfed in post. I think this is unlikely to happen though, as Jagex does enjoy their reputation for listening to the community, however much that actually happens in practice. One thing to consider though is that this poll system that they're using now is designed to allow this, and we would probably get used to the update after a few weeks, so they might just do it anyway. Ultimately, forestry is probably coming into the game in some form. But this isn't the only update that's going through this new polling system right now, so I thought it would be important to pull out. We might be able to ignore some random events that happen while woodcutting, and a tea that's honestly more complicated to make than a sandfuse serum, even if it does boost your slayer. But could we ignore a totally new prayer book, or a new skill? Over the coming weeks and months, Jagex will decide how the new polling system is supposed to work, especially when the votes of players don't match what they used to feel when it finally comes time to get down to the details of the new updates. What will they do in these situations? If you have any ideas for how to solve Forestry, the polling system, or what Jagex might do in this situation or any other ones coming up, I would love to hear them in the comments. I read every one of them. Thank you to everyone who's been subscribing and watching recently. The channel growth has been amazing to see. Feel free to check out my other videos. I dropped a new one on the proposed training methods for sailing just a few days ago. Other than that, not much else to say, just to see what happens, so until next time, peace out.